Right now, without thinking about it, you just took a breath. You didn't choose to. You didn't plan it. It happened the way your heart beats, quietly, automatically, beneath your awareness. And because it's automatic, you've probably never questioned it. You've been breathing since the moment you arrived in this world. Surely you know how to do it by now, right? Here's what's strange. You don't. Almost no one does. Breathing is the one function your body shares between the conscious and the unconscious mind. You can control it if you want to, but the moment you stop paying attention, it goes back on autopilot. And that autopilot, the one running silently in your chest right now, has almost certainly been miscalibrated for years, possibly your entire life. The question isn't whether you breathe. The question is whether you breathe well. And the answer, for most people alive today, is a quiet, uncomfortable no. Take a moment and notice what just happened in your chest. Did your shoulders rise? Did your belly stay still? Did the breath feel short, tight, somewhere high up near your collarbone? That pattern, chest breathing, shallow breathing, mouth breathing, is so common that most people assume it's normal. It isn't normal. It's a symptom. And it's been building for a very long time. To understand why, you have to go back. Way back. Further than you might expect. Your respiratory system is ancient. The basic architecture of your lungs, your diaphragm, the chemical signals that tell your brain when to inhale and exhale, these structures evolved over hundreds of millions of years. Long before you existed. Long before humans existed. The earliest air-breathing vertebrates crawled out of the water around 375 million years ago, and the core mechanics they used to pull oxygen from the atmosphere are still running inside you today. For most of that time, breathing worked exactly the way it was supposed to. Your ancestors breathed through their noses. They breathed slowly. They breathed deep into their abdomens. Not because they were trying to, because that's what the body does when it isn't under constant low-grade stress. Then something shifted. Around 300,000 years ago, the modern human skull began to change. The face flattened. The jaw shortened. The nasal passages narrowed. These changes came with bigger brains, more complex skulls, but also, as paleoanthropologist Daniel Lieberman at Harvard has documented extensively, a crooked, crowded dental arch and a compromised airway. The price of cognitive complexity paid partly in the quality of every breath you take. But evolution wasn't finished disrupting your breathing. It had help. The industrial era changed human posture. You started sitting for hours. Your spine rounded forward. Your chest caved slightly inward. Your diaphragm, the large dome-shaped muscle beneath your lungs that is supposed to be the primary driver of every breath, got compressed, underused, forgotten. And something else took over. The small accessory muscles in your neck and shoulders, the ones designed for emergency use, for the sudden gasp when something startles you, began doing the daily work instead. A backup system running as the main system. Every day. For years. And then there's your mouth. Humans are one of the only mammals on Earth that routinely breathe through their mouths. It isn't supposed to be this way. Your nose is a sophisticated air processing organ. It filters particles. It humidifies the air. It warms it to body temperature before it reaches your lungs. It produces something called nitric oxide, a molecule that dilates your blood vessels and dramatically improves the efficiency of oxygen transfer in your lungs. None of that happens when you breathe through your mouth. Orthodontist and researcher John Mew spent decades documenting what mouth breathing does to the developing face in children. The palate narrows. The jaw recedes. The airway shrinks. The changes are measurable, structural, and in many cases, permanent. And they feed back into the problem, making nasal breathing harder, which pushes more breathing through the mouth, which narrows the airway further. A loop your body may have been running since childhood without your knowledge. But the consequences reach far beyond your face. When you breathe too fast, and most adults in the modern world do, averaging 15 to 18 breaths per minute against an optimal range closer to 5 to 6, something subtle but significant happens in your blood chemistry. Carbon dioxide drops. That might sound like a good thing. Carbon dioxide is a waste product after all. But your body uses carbon dioxide as the primary signal to release oxygen from your red blood cells into your tissues. When CO2 is too low, your blood clings to its oxygen. Your brain, your muscles, your organs get less of what they actually need. This was described in 1904 by Danish physiologist Christian Bohr, the Bohr Effect, as it's now known. Oxygen delivery isn't just about how much oxygen you inhale, it's about the carbon dioxide balance that tells your body where to send it. And chronic overbreathing quietly disrupts that balance every minute of every day. Here's what this feels like. Fatigue that doesn't fully explain itself. A mind that races and won't settle. Tension across the upper back and neck. Light sleep. A vague, low-level anxiety with no clear source. The kind of tiredness that coffee helps but never fully fixes. Sound familiar? These aren't unrelated complaints. They're the downstream effects of a respiratory system running in an inefficient pattern it learned so long ago you've stopped noticing it. Researcher Patrick McKeown, building on the clinical work of Soviet physician Konstantin Buteyko, has spent years documenting the connection between chronic overbreathing and a range of conditions including anxiety, sleep apnea, asthma, and cardiovascular strain. Buteyko developed his method in the 1950s after noticing that the severity of his patients' conditions correlated closely with how fast they breathed. He believed, and subsequent research has supported, that restoring nasal diaphragmatic breathing at a reduced rate could reverse many of these patterns. The modern nervous system doesn't help. Your stress response, the sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight activation that your ancient ancestors needed for genuine physical threats, triggers faster, shallower, mouth-centered breathing. That's appropriate when a predator is chasing you. It floods your muscles with oxygen-ready blood for explosive action. But your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a lion and an inbox full of unread emails. It responds to perceived threats the same way. And because modern life delivers a continuous drip of low-level stressors, deadlines, noise, notifications, social pressure, many people exist in a mild but chronic state of sympathetic activation. Their breathing reflects it, and then their breathing reinforces it. This is one of the stranger loops in human biology. Stress changes how you breathe, and how you breathe changes how stressed you feel. The causality runs in both directions. Your respiratory pattern is not just a symptom of your mental state. It is, in a very literal physiological sense, a driver of it. Your vagus nerve, the long wandering nerve that connects your brain to your heart, lungs, and gut, responds directly to the length and depth of your exhale. A long, slow exhale activates the parasympathetic system. It tells your brain the danger has passed. It lowers your heart rate. It loosens the grip of anxiety. This is why slow breathing has shown up in every contemplative tradition, from Buddhist meditation to pranayama to Catholic rosary prayer. Not as spiritual metaphor, as physiology. Every tradition, independently, landed on a breathing rate of roughly 5 to 6 breaths per minute. That convergence is not a coincidence. And yet, almost no one breathes this way naturally anymore. You spend the first years of your life breathing correctly. Watch a sleeping infant. The belly rises and falls. The mouth is closed. The breath is slow and rhythmic and deep into the abdomen. That is your original pattern, the one your body comes pre-installed with. At some point, through stress, through posture, through habit, through 100 small environmental pressures, that pattern drifts. And the drift becomes the default. And the default becomes invisible. The body adapts. It always adapts. But adaptation isn't the same as optimization. Your lungs can run on shallow chest breathing the way your legs can run in shoes that don't fit. It works. It isn't working well. What does better look like? It looks like breathing in through your nose always, unless you are doing something that genuinely demands more airflow. It looks like the breath dropping down into your belly first before it rises into your chest. It looks like an exhale that is slightly longer than your inhale, the ratio that calms your nervous system rather than stimulating it. It looks like fewer breaths per minute, softer, quieter, without the constant low effort of trying. It looks, in other words, almost exactly like the breathing of the person you were before the world taught you to be afraid of it. Researcher James Nestor spent years documenting this in his investigation into what he called the lost art of breathing. Across traditions, across clinical settings, across evolutionary biology, the same picture kept emerging. The body knows how to breathe. The question is whether you've spent years overriding the instruction. Tonight, without thinking about it, you'll take another breath. But maybe now, just for a moment, you'll think about it. The belly that doesn't rise. The mouth that shouldn't open. The exhale that takes slightly longer than you usually let it. And somewhere in that breath, if you let it happen, a system that has been running wrong for years will remember, briefly, what it was designed to do. The breath was always there. You just stopped listening to it.